Okay then, first things first, before I start today's Launchbox and PlayStation setup guide, if you like what you see today, hit notifications, subscribe and like so you don't miss upcoming retro emulation content that I release on my channel, Just Jamie, every day. So we're looking at Launchbox today and setting up the OG PlayStation or PSX or PS1 or whatever you call the first PlayStation nowadays. So we need some BIOS files for this, and that's crucial. BIOS files are going to power your game. Without them, it isn't going to work. So in my BIOS folder, I've got 4 BIOS files. We got scph5000.bin, scph5500.bin, scph5501.bin, and finally I've got scph5502.bin. So 4 BIOS files there to power our PlayStation games. And I'm going to be using .bin.q file extensions. Now in my PS1 folder, I've got a single game, a single disc game that is, which is of course Ridge Racer. If we go inside of here, you will likely have similar files to what I've got just here. Lots of .bins and a single .q. And if we come out of here, I've also got a 4-disc game. And this is the X-Files game. I'm a big X-Files fan, have been for a long time. And this one is a monster of a game in terms of disc. A lot like Final Fantasy 7, 8 and 9. So what we need to do then is actually go for this. What we're going to do is first of all find our RetroArch folder. So when you downloaded and installed Launchbox, which I'm also going to add is currently on 13.11, that got updated a couple of days ago, you would have downloaded RetroArch to go with it. Now to find your RetroArch folder, all we need to do is locate your C drive. Here's my C drive, and in my C drive, right near the bottom, you're going to find a users folder. If we go into users, you're going to find another folder inside of here, which is going to be your name possibly, or whatever you named your computer. In my case, my folder here is called Jamie. If we go inside of Jamie, or whatever your folder is called, you're going to find Launchbox folder. Go inside Launchbox folder, and next thing we're going to look for is emulators, normally the 4th folder down from the top. If we go in there, here's your RetroArch folder, and if we just go down to System, what we're going to do in System is drag BIOS files for PS1 or PSX inside of that folder. Pretty simple stuff. And just remember that normally your BIOS files for RetroArch Gaming goes into this System folder, just like I've done just here. So what we're going to do next then is actually come out of here, and we're going to just scroll down until we find retroarch.exe. If we open this one up, so we're now inside of RetroArch, and what we need to do is just make sure that we got PS1 core installed. Now, if you downloaded Launchbox recently and you've got RetroArch open it and you find this in a window mode, in order to get a full screen mode, if you go to settings, go to video, and you're going to go down to full screen mode. Now, starting full screen mode is going to be turned off. If you just turn this on, I'll do it the other way around. And I'm going to just turn that on to enable full screen mode. Here we go. Now we need to make sure that we got a PlayStation core. If you're new to RetroArch or Launchbox, just remember that a core is like a little micro emulator that works exclusively with RetroArch. So in order to make sure we got the cores installed, we need to go to main menu, online updater, core downloader. This then fetches a list of all the cores. You'll notice that all of my cores just here, all the names, I've got green hashtags. What this means is once you download a core, it will give you that hashtag, and that means it's been installed. So the core we're using today for PlayStation is actually going to be a core titled Swan Station. So here we go, we're in the PlayStation section, which is obviously under Sony. We got a few choices here. The one I'm going to be working with today and showing you is going to be Swan Station. So I'm using an Xbox controller. All I need to do is press A on that, it installs it. Now if I press my B button to come back out, just go to configuration file and save current configuration. Sometimes RetroArch forgets what you've done, so it's always safe just to save what you're doing. We're going to go to quit RetroArch, press A. Okie dokes. So we're all pretty much set up, ready to go. And before I actually open up Launchbox and start importing, just remember it's likely your best bet to put your PlayStation games into a dedicated folder. For example, PS1 folder contains my 2 PS1 games. So we're going to open up Launchbox. Okay, so we're now inside of Launchbox, and what I always suggest doing is just closing down the Add Games little window you got just here, and we're going to do this from the tools at the top just here. If we just go down one to import, we're going to just go over to ROM files and left click on that. Welcome to the import ROMs from Files Wizard. If we go to next on this, select the files to import. Now what we need to do here is direct this to where our PS1 games are located, and as you know they're on my desktop. So I'm going to go to add folder, I'm then going to go to desktop, and I'm going to just point it to my PS1 game folder where my Ridge Racer game is and my X-Files game. So left click PS1, select folder, next. What platform are you importing games for? Now, automatically, this is detected Sony PlayStation, which is awesome. If it doesn't detect it, just drop this down and then just drag this to the bottom until we find Sony PlayStation. And you also want to make sure Show Default Platforms is checked. If you press Next, choose an emulator, RetroArch. And you also need to make sure that automatically download RetroArch Core if missing. So as we know, in my case, I've already got these cores downloaded, Swan Station, Beetle, and several other cores for PlayStation, but just make sure that one's actually checked. We're going to go to Next. Now the next option is pretty straightforward. If we use the bottom option here, use the files in their current location, Launchbox isn't going to move your PlayStation games. It's going to keep them right where they are. In my case, it's going to be on the desktop. I'm going to use the files in their current location. Would you like to download metadata for your games? Yes, we do. What this means is that in terms of importing our games, metadata is going to grab all the information for your games, and that's why Launchbox and myself recommends leaving this checked. Press next. Now if you're using Big Box like I do myself, premium that is, it's a paid service, but it's awesome. And if you truly want the best out of your retro gaming experience, seriously, get yourself Big Box. It's a very, very awesome way to play games, and the interface itself is very cool. So if you're not going to get Big Box and you want the very, very minimum on your retro gaming, then just go to check none. And what this is going to do is deselect all the artwork. And what I was saying just a minute ago about Big Box is that different themes in Big Box utilizes different forms of artwork that you can scrape just here. So in my case, I'm going to just go to check all. I'm going to go to next. Now I use Emumovies, and again, you need to pay for Emumovies. It gets you additional artwork that the standard scraper through Launchbox doesn't get. It also gets you video previews, which you can look at within Big Box. So again, I'm going to check every one of these and go to next. Only theme bezels. So if you've been watching the last couple of my Launchbox setup guides, you'll know what this is at this point. If you select only theme bezels, rather than having black boring bars on the side of left and right of our game being in the center, you can actually replace this through RetroArch, which I'm going to show you in a minute anyways. It just gives it a little bit more color, I suppose. But you're going to see where we're going with this. If we press next, and next again. So ready to import, we're ready to import games, press finish. Okie doke, so because I've only got 2 games, it was literally done within seconds, and we've also got that artwork. So anyways, we've got our games, and it's now downloading the bezel pack, which I was just mentioning. Okay, I'm going to mention this anyways, but if you don't use Big Box and you get a little bit fed up of that 3D box, if that's what you've downloaded, if you go up to image group, you can change these around, providing you downloaded the relevant artwork. Let's just go for Marquise, for example. Here's Marquise, looks a bit boring. If we go back to image group, screenshots, got a couple of screenshots there, nothing brilliant. Personally, I always stick to 3D boxes on this. So what we're going to do then is actually use Launchbox to launch a game. So first up we got Ridge Racer.
Three, two, one, go! Wow, what a start! This is just what I wanted to see! 2 laps to go!
Okay, so as we can say, it works absolutely perfectly, but let's be honest, this game in particular hasn't aged too well. I actually remember playing this one near when it came out around 94, 95, maybe 96. And it was mind-blowing in its state of realism, really, at the time. People watching this remember the launch of the first PlayStation. You'll realise and remember how great this game once looked. But I'm not making any excuses, technology has moved on. But we can actually make this look a lot better using RetroArch, and that's the point of emulation sometimes. So from your quick menu, I'll just press Xbox button to access this menu. What we're going to do first is take a look at settings. If we go into settings, video, we go down to scaling. Now, by default, it says core provided. So if we go inside of here, core provided pretty much means it's going to auto give us the 4x3 display, like we can see. So it's got the black bars on the sides. We can put this on to full, but in some games it doesn't look right. It looks very stretched. If I just turn this on, come out, main menu, quick menu. So that's what I mean. So really on some games, by putting it to full 16:9, really just forget it. If we go back to video scaling, I'm going to put aspect ratio back onto core provided. So that's going to put our image back down to that 4x3 ratio, as we can see. So next thing we want to look at is the next option down, bilinear filtering. As it says underneath it, adds a slight blur to the image and soften hard pixel edges. As you can see in this game particularly, the distance looks very pixelated. If we just turn this on, if we come back out, quick menu, resume. And as you can see there, not entirely terrible. We can do other things as well with this to make things look better. Now, I'm going to go back to video, scaling, and I'm actually going to turn bilinear filtering off. That option is there if your computer can handle it. If I press B on my controller to come out, and out again, I'm going to go to main menu, quick menu, and from here I'm going to go down to core options. Now under enhancement settings is the settings you really want to use if you really want to give your games a boost. Internal resolution scale, this is currently on 1x. You've got the ability here to go up to 4K and beyond. Now personally I don't recommend going beyond 4K. What I do suggest doing if you've got a lower end computer, around about 720p, 1080p possibly. I'm going to just pop this on 720p. If I come out, and as you can see there, huge, massive difference. It looks so much better. However, this game in particular doesn't seem to want to run too well with 720p. Could be my computer, I don't think it is, but I could be wrong. Okay, we also got additional video settings. So in addition to internal resolution, which as you just seen, really makes the games look awesome here in 2024. If we go back to quick menu, core options, enhancement settings. Now, multi-sample anti-aliasing, you've got two different versions of this. We've got MSAA and we also got SSAA. So whichever version of this your computer supports, use one of these. What it's going to do is clear up jagged edges, and if you combine this with a higher internal resolution with maybe a little bit of blur and a filter, which I'm going to show you in a minute, some of these games are really going to look awesome. So experiment between 2 times to 32 times and see what that brings you. I'm going to put this to off. Okay, if we come back out, something else I want to show you is the bezels which we downloaded when we set up Launchbox RetroArch. If we go to quick menu, if we just scroll up, on screen overlay, if I turn this on, automatically it detects I'm using Sony PlayStation Core. This doesn't show up, just go into there by pressing A on your controller or the equivalent to A button on Xbox controller, and just make sure Sony PlayStation.cfg is selected. So we're going to come back out. Awesome, so as you can see, after applying that overlay, we now got bezel on the side. If we go back into quick menu, okay, so as we can see, we now got bezels on the sides, and it looks a little bit better rather than having black bars, but that's down to preference. Next thing I'm going to talk to you about is saving load states. We've also got this on this core in RetroArch. If we go down to save states, state slot acts a little bit like a memory card. So you've got 1000 slots on here. If we just go for a 0, if I go to and back to the quick menu, load state, and as we can see, that's just loaded back where I saved it from. So next thing I want to talk to you about is the actual ability to swap discs. So for this, what I'm going to need to do is just close down RetroArch. So quit RetroArch. This time I'm going to open up the X-Files. So there we go, the X-Files. Now what I'm going to do, rather than playing it for a couple of hours to get to the next disc, what I'm going to do is show you how to do this. So what I'm going to do then to swap disc is quick menu, and if this game asks me for disc 2 or disc 3, disc 4, etc. If I go to disc control, eject disc, load new disc, select my next disc, and that says appended disc. What I'm going to do next is insert that disc. Now let's just say for example that that game is asking for disc 2 or disc 3. It's then going to load from disc 2 or disc 3 using that following routine which I've just showed you. And finally, something else I am going to show you, which some of you might be very interested in, is filters. If we go to video filters right at the bottom. If we go in there, we got a ton load of filters just there to use, ranging from upscaling filters to scan lines to normal filters with height and width. Really, there's lots there to experiment with, but mainly we got scan lines, and that's what a lot of people like. So that's it for today's Launchbox and PS1, PSX, PlayStation, OG PlayStation setup guide. So if you liked what you see today, hit notifications, subscribe and like so you don't miss upcoming retro emulation content. I also covered MAME and Main Cave for the last couple of days, so check those out, which will be in my Launchbox playlist. Also join me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok, and if you want to support my channel and don't fancy becoming a member through YouTube, I always accept one-off donations, even if it's £1 or $1 or whatever. Everything's appreciated, and it's for the benefit of just Jamie as a channel. I can then go on to make better videos, this and that. So anyways, until next time, stay retro.